Welcome to CasualBCH. In this episode, the wife and I discuss Layer 2's, Lightning, and is Bitcoin successful? Special thanks for the donation that was sent. We did replace her microphone, but this episode was recorded before that, so this should be the last one with mic issues. So we've talked about block sizes, we've talked about running nodes, and not everybody needing to run one. Which is, again, we could go into those both much more, but that's kind of a quick high level. So the maxi argument is going to be, what about Lightning? So Bitcoin layer 1 is going to be high expensive fees because limited space, and all the low end fees are just going to go to Lightning. Or if you want low, cheap transactions, you use Lightning. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of my read.cash article focuses on a little bit. So that's one argument you could go look at.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to pause. Because that sentence right there is actually what triggered this podcast. Kind of. Like this, us coming upstairs.
Okay.
To the closet.
Yes.
Because he says that exact sentence, and I say, Kate, do you want to know what my issue with layer 2 is? And he says, Kate, well, let's go do this on a podcast, because that's like a perfect podcast topic.
It is.
So do you want to know what my issue now that I can finally ask you.
Sure.
With layer 2 is, what the fuck is the point of having a second layer?
To be scalable.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I actually really was hoping you would say that.
Oh, okay.
So today I was reading on Reddit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I browse Reddit.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Just a lot of good things come from Reddit these days.
So I was reading Reddit. There was a post on Reddit that was the flippening.
Yes.
ETH versus BTC. This will swing back to Lightning, don't worry. And somebody said, is it going to happen where Ethereum flips BTC?
Could.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
And then somebody said something about Ethereum having another layer because the first layer was too full. So they have a second layer. And it really bugged me because it's like you have to go to Ethereum and then you have to do a transaction to get into somewhere else.
Yep.
And then you're in somewhere else, but you're not, you're like on Ethereum, but you're not. You're using something else on Ethereum. And it's like when we were looking at porting Fog to a different chain, it's like, oh, we could go here, 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 or here. Oh, these are all Ethereum layer 2 chains. Well, I don't want to go to Ethereum because you still have to go on Ethereum and just port to the second layer. You're still touching Ethereum. And that's an issue. So then talking about Lightning.
It's kind of the same deal where you have the expensive base layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have this expensive base layer. Okay. Number 1, you have to buy first coin. Now you pay expensive fee because it has to remain expensive. Otherwise, there is no value in the first layer because if it doesn't remain expensive, that means nobody's using it, which means it's unsecure.
Mm-hmm. And again, read.cash article goes over that. So.
And then if it's not expensive, then people are going to use it, which means there's no point for the second layer. But that means people would use first layer, which means it goes up. Cycle repeats. Okay, now you're on the second layer. Okay, you go into the second layer. Now you're in the second layer, hoping that people still use the first layer so that you can maintain on the second layer. But if people stop using the first layer, you're fucked on the second layer.
Pretty much. Depends on how it's architected, but yeah.
But then it's like an IOU where you're in this bubble hoping that whatever bridge system is designed saying that you are owed the 1 BTC on main chain is maintained, secured, and you'll be able to get back, and that it actually is there. And there's that wallet. There's that, like, there are so many risks on a second layer.
Potentially, yeah. Depends how it's architected. I don't know the full technicals on most of these things and how they actually peg back. So as an example, I would say Immutable X is a second layer on Ethereum because that's the one that uses the Gods Unchained game. Or rather, it's their game, it's their blockchain, and now they're trying to fill it up with other games. So that's one I have used, where it's like you bring a little bit of Ethereum over to it, you have to pay Ethereum fees, so it kind of sucks getting it in. And I was also in that state at one point where it's like, I just need a little bit more to, get this card I want. And I hate spending money on those things. It was like more experimentation. But you have to pay that fee, and it's like, well, it's not really worth it because it's too expensive, and I don't need that much. I just need a little bit. In that case, it's like, okay, you're running a full-fledged blockchain. If your layer 1 blockchain blows up suddenly, then yeah, everybody in your layer 2 is basically IOUs to a dead blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, you might be able to re-architect it so that you're just your own standalone blockchain then.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not as
but
big
then why not
of a
just
risk.
start as your own blockchain?
You could.
Like, what is the value as starting as a layer 2 on Ethereum, for example?
I mean, it would come down to, okay, you're starting a new EVM, and
You're just another copycat.
You're just another copycat. You have the same restrictions as whatever. So, like, if you're just a copy of Ethereum, you have this. You're an Ethereum. You have the limitations of Ethereum.
Yeah.
The kind of idea behind the sharding of the networks or whatever is you have networks that are specialized. So Ethereum is like the base layer. It's moving value around. It has all its on-chain apps, dApps, and all that stuff. But maybe you have separate gaming chains at launch, and that's all they're used for is gaming. So therefore, you are increasing your capacity, your scalability, because now you're just tacking extra blockchains on everywhere. And the blockchains aren't necessarily getting bigger or faster at a fast pace, but you're just tacking on more modules to make it more usable over time.
Mm-hmm.
The alternative option being you just make the layer 1 massively bigger and faster.
Mm-hmm. So my question is, like, Ethereum's expensive when used.
Because it's popular.
Because it's popular.
And it has actual utility.
Yeah, but just thinking of, like, if BCH was to design a layer 2, like Cashtokens, for example, if Cashtokens get popular, BCH is more scalable.
Yes. And that's because Cashtokens is not a layer 2.
Yes, but if Cashtokens gets popular, could it have fee issues?
Yeah, if it could. If the blocks fill up, supply demand.
Exactly.
This is also part of the reason the discussion for the automatic block size adjustment is coming for next year.
BTC did main chain high fees, second layer
low fees,
which seems, I don't know, hold in my brain, like.
So just to make it more muddy, the maxi argument is going to be, oh yeah, it's the main chain fees are high, but to make it more usable, you can use things like channel factories. So you pool a bunch of people's transactions. I don't know the technicals behind this, but the idea is you pool everybody's transactions for opening a channel on Lightning together into one transaction. So that's cheaper for everybody. So you're not paying $50 a transaction or whatever BTC is running at to open a channel on Lightning, so you can use cheap transactions. You're only paying a little bit of that because you're pooling a bunch of people together.
Who are you trusting to run that?
I don't know how technically it works.
Yeah, no, but that would be my question. Who are you trusting to run that? Is that run by everybody in their backyard too? Can anybody run that in their basement? Because it's blah, 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 like...
There'll be Bitcoin transactions, BTC transactions. So, like, there'll be potentially some service, but at the end of the day, it's transactions. So,
but was that the thing that somebody else paid the fee?
So you might be thinking on Lightning itself.
No, wasn't there something that came out that was like a rich person would pay your fee for you? I saw in cryptocurrency that something came out.
I think there was something separate about something like that, where it's like people would cover
transactions and then somebody else would cover your fee for you, and I was like, what a stupid fucking thing.
Yeah, I think that was actually one argument for people saying that that's how Lightning would get adopted, is companies would pay you to open Lightning transactions channels with them, which is also just advancing the whole Lightning is centralized stuff, which we haven't got into.
Going to pay for this and this and this, but they can't pay for fuck you all. Stupid piece of shit.
So I don't think even in our old podcast, I don't think we went over Lightning very much either, but that's a whole other onion to go through. But
I hate people.
That's pretty direct.
Well, I just and it's not just the BTC community either. I don't like maxis, and I view my husband as a maxi. There's many times I hate my husband too.
Yep.
When he's sitting there arguing in his little circle, and I don't view myself.
You make it sound like I'm sitting there talking to myself, just like schizophrenic. Like,
I mean, sometimes I feel like that when I'm not listening to you, but you're talking to me.
yeah, there's some truth to that. Continue.
People are so
Tribal.
aggressive. I'm aggressive, but like cultist.
Yes.
It's not even tribal. It's cultist.
Mm-hmm. It is annoying when people can't really when they seem to like ignore logic and facts because they let that cultishness blind them.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's something I'm aware of a lot, and I question myself a ton on it. It's like, am I not seeing things right because I'm too one-sided in this argument type thing? But it's like, no, you look at the data supports it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. I look at the data and it says that it works this way, and you can verify that. It's like a scientific process type thing, and it's just it's weird how people get super defensive about things, and as soon as it's like it's ruffling their feathers or challenging their beliefs, it's like going up to a sports person and saying their team sucks, but like 100 times worse.
It's like going up to a sports team that are filled with toddlers and saying their team suck.
Ouch. That's so mean.
Just let people have fun, okay? Let them have their fun. Let them live in their bubbles, okay? Give them different color balls. It's okay to, like multiple colors of balls. People can have multiple coins. Y'all don't need to just like one coin. BCH freaks. Anyway, back to Lightning.
Yes. So yeah, there was a thing about the companies opening channels for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
So big companies are paying main chain fees. Big companies are opening channels.
Theoretically, yeah.
Theoretically. Yeah. Or not.
Well, this is how BTC will work in the future, according to the people that support it, which it won't, but we'll continue.
Why?
Why what?
Why? That is my question. Like, why would anybody, logically or illogically, you could be a Vulcan or not, want to use a layer 2 chain to buy coffee instead of their credit card, for example? Like, why would you, talking in a crypto world versus a fiat world, go through all the effort of buying Bitcoin to send it to Lightning to buy your coffee instead of just using your cash, credit card, debit card, whatever you have on hand? If you live in a poor country, why would you choose Bitcoin, for example, where it has that super expensive initial fee or the unsecureness of being on a layer 2?
So am I going to be the BTC Maxi answering these?
Yes, because I sure shit am not a BTC Maxi.
Okay, so I'll be the Maxi.
Okay.
So why would
Are we going to role play?
Yeah.
We never role play. This is going to be fun.
So, so why would you use Lightning?
No, that's my question.
No, it's okay. So you asked like 8 questions there. So
apologies.
Roll back.
Okay. So to buy coffee.
Okay.
Why would you choose to use Lightning layer 2 over cash?
As a BTC Maxi, you want everybody to use it because everybody getting into Bitcoin means that your Bitcoin is more valuable, which means you get rich.
Okay, but you as a person.
As a person, what?
You as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
You have $5.
Okay.
And you are going to Tim Hortons.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to buy a coffee.
Yes.
And they've decided to accept Bitcoin Lightning. Congratulations, Timmy's. Choice is to pay in cash, debit, or Lightning.
So as a BTC Maxi, I would pay in cash or credit.
Why?
Because I don't want to give up my Bitcoin because it's going to go up later. The arguments besides that would be, okay, Bitcoin has taken over the world. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. You don't need Bitcoin or cash or fiat anymore because credit cards, because everything's in Bitcoin now. So maybe you do sell some of it, but you're much more conservative. And this is kind of like the deflation versus inflation economics argument of why would you ever get rid of your Bitcoin if it's going to go up in value later? So people
What's the point of even having a Lightning network if they just believe in
hodling.
hodling?
Because it's unavoidable that the end goal is everybody using it, because that means everybody's buying it and holding it, which means that the value goes up because there's a lot of people out there.
Let's go in the future.
Okay.
BTC is number one.
Okay.
I mean, it is. So, okay.
in the world, in terms of money?
Cryptocurrency as a whole is mainstream.
Okay.
And people can choose to get paid in crypto.
Okay. So it's rivaling fiat.
It is.
Or surpass it. Gotcha.
Or multiple. It's not necessarily. It's acceptable in the world to get paid in crypto.
What percentage of the people is using Bitcoin? In this scenario?
50-50.
Okay, so half the people are using it.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's majorly accepted everywhere.
So that's why you're in Timmy's and you have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You personally get half your paychecks in crypto.
Okay.
In BTC specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have BTC currently on your phone. You could send it to the Lightning Network to buy your coffee, but you would have to pay a Bitcoin transaction.
Right. So in theory, you already have a Lightning channel set up with coins in it.
But that's assuming you do.
Yeah.
But what if you don't? You'd have to set one up on the spot, or you have to top it up. Like is it only a one-time transaction fee to set one up?
It is a one-time transaction to set it up.
Okay, so once it's up, it's forever up.
Yeah.
And then you have like a little bridge.
So if you have one BTC in your Lightning channel that you set up, and you spend one BTC on Lightning, you now have no Bitcoin on Lightning.
Yeah, so you have to send more.
Yeah.
So you have to pay another transaction to...
Yeah, so you have to top up.
Okay.
So it's like a little account.
So it's not a one transaction. It's
a multi-transaction.
Yeah.
But the theory is that you could then also provide services or some sort of balancing thing. Bitcoin. It kind of is. Yeah. Okay. It's its own little IOU almost.
Yeah.
But if you have a channel that has no balance left because you gave it all to your partner on the Lightning Network, the other side of your channel, there's things about like, you can like balance channels online and get a small little fee for it. So maybe people send you some of their Lightning Bitcoin, which moves the little peg over to your side a little bit, like the abacus beads. Because that's basically all a Lightning channel is you're giving, or you're setting up a channel so that you have your bead on your side, which is 1 Bitcoin, and you might move it to the other side of the channel because you spend it and it goes somewhere, and now you have none. But it can come back potentially if you provide a service and somebody pays you.
So I'll be honest. I know very little about the Lightning Network because I really am not a fan of BTC. I just basically delete as much as possible from my brain.
I mean, you're not a technical person.
I'm not a
background.
No, I can do gunshot wounds, but I can't.
Yeah.
So Lightning sounds to me like dealing with the normal banking system.
Yes.
Where it's just like, I want to send my money from this bank to this bank, and they call up banking and be like, hey, we're gonna send you $100, and they're like, okay, here's our information, and they're like, cool, you now have $100, okay? And they're like, okay, cool, thanks. And then they're like, hey, it's gonna take like a week to get there, and you're like, well, why is it gonna take so long? And they're like, oh, we gotta, verify that nobody else owns the money. And it's like, it's been in my account, and they're like, yeah, it's what?
Yep. More or less, in a nutshell, it's rebuilding the banking system,
but why?
And with more complexity and some other unique things, because it's this weird crypto hybrid thing. And
but why? Why when Bitcoin?
Because it's a science experiment.
but why when layer 1 makes it simpler? As a BTC maxi.
BTC maxi, why? Because you don't want to complicate layer 1. You want layer 1 to work and be as accessible as possible to everybody.
For Amazon to use?
For Amazon and everybody else to use, yes. Yeah, so you want it to be as accessible for everybody so that Amazon and Google and the US government and all these big places can spend really high fees to send things back and forth.
That's
and
great.
If they don't, the network collapses.
From Amazon, so I'm excited for them to use that transaction.
Yes.
Network.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is you talk about all these little things, and you can have very deep discussions on them all, but as soon as you start plugging them all in together and looking at the farther horizons in terms of years, it just falls apart.
It doesn't, like, every time I go on Twitter and I see the herd of BCH maxis arguing.
We have a herd now.
What the fuck else do you want to be called?
I don't know.
There's like a handful of you guys.
Yeah, it has grown.
It has grown.
Yeah. I will say randomly that, just sorry to interject, I was super active on Reddit back in the day.
Oh my God.
I was one of those people that was constantly arguing big paragraphs and paragraphs. And
then you'd delete that account and you'd start a new one.
A couple of them, yeah. But there's a couple that were, I mean, I was a nobody on it, but I was probably well known among certain people.
I mean,
I was arguing because it seemed like something worth doing and not many people were doing it. And then I kind of bowed out of it. But when, I bowed out of it once I kind of got a little disillusioned after a long time. Mm-hmm. But also seeing that other people that I wasn't familiar with were almost like taking up the banner.
Yeah.
As more people started coming in, it's like, yeah.
I mean, you browsed for the beginning. And then with the fork in BCH is when you start arguing.
Yeah, just before it.
And fighting, yeah. And it was like every single day.
It was an obsession.
Paragraph and paragraph and paragraph, constantly.
I found it entertaining, so.
Yeah, which is great that you had hobbies. But now on Twitter, it's short forms. And it was actually really interesting seeing you switch off Reddit. Because you took a short break, but a break from arguing.
Yeah.
And then you started going on Twitter. And at first you didn't start. And now you're arguing on Twitter, which I call twattering for some odd reason. So you post, and it's not just one post now. It's 2 or 3 or 4. And you've joined the herd of people fighting against other people, arguing points. And you're posting and fighting. And it's really interesting to see it go from Reddit arguments to Twitter arguments. And seeing how it goes from big, long 2, 4, 6, 8 paragraph discussions to, 140 character limit, trying to get your point across, and then person replies and says, you said this single word, you're incorrect on this, let's talk about that one word, and ignore the rest of the thing you said. And it's just like child's play going back and forth in very small form.
Yeah, you really think about getting your point across when you have a character limit. And then people just bypass it and do like 10 messages in a row.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it ends up just being big ones anyway. But
yeah.
It is interesting to see it go on Twitter and spread.
Yeah. So
especially with the hashtags, if people use them.
Yeah, I don't really use them.
No.
It's kind of interesting because I like seeing more people getting into it. And it's kind of hard to resist getting pulled into it sometimes when you see comments. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, I started by just lurking. Mm-hmm. For years, I just read things because I was of the mindset of like, I don't know anything about this. I'm not technical. I'm not a coder. I can't really jump into this stuff. So you just sit there and learn. So I know that there's a lot of people that are just watching. And I know from experience that like that it does have value. I think there's like studies or something about how like only like in like forums a long time ago, it's like only 5% of people that are posting, or the people that are posting are only like 5% of the community. Like the vast majority are lurkers. Mm-hmm. So that's basically why I do it. It's just trying to spread information that not necessarily the person I'm talking to is who I'm talking to. It's the people that are reading it besides that. And it's also why I started talking more in terms of defending Bitcoin and BCH and scaling and stuff like that, was because other people started standing up once things really started getting bad and just before the split. So there's value in talking. And I'm just passionate about the subject, so it's kind of hard to hold myself away from it. But
I'm a lurker.
Yeah. Everybody starts as a lurker, usually. Unless you're like super outgoing.
I have noticed that there's more people in general being like, oh, I didn't know that about BCH. Like when people talk about like BTC versus BCH, like in Reddit argument posts, or people like, there's more random posts that BCH get posted into for cryptocurrency and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And, most of the time still BCH gets shits on, but it's starting to obviously have a change.
I think a lot of it is because Bitcoin BTC is not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, we're in a long-term bear market. There's not a lot of excitement. And there's nothing triggering that to really turn that around, aside from these stupid, ETFs and stuff. And that's all. There's big money stuff, and the whole vision of, becoming money for the world and everybody using it. That excitement's kind of gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it feels like it's turning around a little bit. So people are starting to see the writing on the wall that BTC might not. This is my assumption that BTC isn't the way forward, and it's kind of stagnating. And so I went to ETH Toronto recently for the hackathon and the meetup.
Mm-hmm.
And
without me.
Yep.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know about BCH. Speaking of that, because it's like a lot of people are still just getting into crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Even there, like some of the people that I was talking to only got in recently, like last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're excited about it and they're getting into it. They have no idea what BCH is. It doesn't have a marketing budget. It doesn't have companies pushing it. Like, they're not going to learn about it, most likely. There was a BTC guy at the conference, and he had a little booth set up with a stupid little game, political-based game. That was the only BTC representation there, but there was somebody. There was no BCH. And I know that's one thing that GP is trying to work on, is trying to get more representation at GP BCHF. And he's getting more representation at things like the meetups, or the conferences, rather. So, yeah, it's a lot of the hatred to BCH is more the old maxis, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're thinning out.
They're getting disillusioned, I think. And people are starting to back away from them a little bit. But also, crypto is still growing. It's still getting new people all the time. It's just not a ground surge of, companies and use cases being like flooding the market. And those new people don't have all those biases.
So we have a lot of different opinions, which is acceptable.
Yeah.
Maybe. Be careful what you say, you'll sleep on the couch.
It's a comfy couch.
I'm gonna go out of my way here to not be a BCHer.
Okay.
In the sense of yes, I like BCH. Okay. I like cryptocurrency and blockchain and technology and advancements of technology, but I don't necessarily like BCH.
Okay.
I'm not a maxi for BCH.
Yes.
Okay. You are, and that's okay. So BTC being number one and Bitcoin being number one, whether that's BCH or BTC, to me right now seems like a long-term failure.
Of it being number one?
Yeah.
Like long-term, nothing else surpassing it?
Yeah.
I would agree.
Okay. And BCH?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bitcoin in general,
yeah,
I view now as a failure.
Okay, good.
But I'm not saying that it is set in that path.
Okay.
There's still a chance.
There is. BTC doesn't hold that chance in my mind.
No, it will fail.
Yeah. Ethereum, I don't think can fix the path that it's fucked, even though it's trying. I don't think it'll fail necessarily, but I feel like it's got such a broken start. Eventually it'll crumble.
I don't think Ethereum would become like a money for the world, like Bitcoin originally was supposed to be, because of how it was designed and its current limits. If it was going to be, I think it would require it to re-architect and launch a new coin, probably a new network in some way. But even then, it's like they're not trying to be money. They're this computer thing, so they could potentially launch some stuff on it that does similar things. But the scalability is in question. Yeah.
So in the sense of money for the world, peer-to-peer electronic cash, BCH, is great. But I feel like it has been so harmed over the years that it's just in a bubble now, and it's harming itself by staying in a bubble, and it has nothing pushing it forward outside of its bubble. So
I would basically agree.
I constantly see people be like, nothing matters because BCH is just cash.
I kind of disagree with those.
Like in the sense of like people who are BCH maxis,
Mm-hmm.
like true maxis that don't necessarily care about cash tokens or anything because BCH is just meant to be cash.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's just meant to be cash for the world adoption. That's all that matters. But adoption doesn't happen. And if adoption was going to happen, it would have already picked up with cryptocurrency. And the fact that it's not picking up means Bitcoin will fail kind of situation.
There's still time, I think. There's still a chance. But like if the split hadn't happened,
I think we'd be in a totally different situation.
yeah, if BTC didn't get basically captured by developers and whatever tinfoil hattery you want to put on in terms of malicious actors,
Mm-hmm.
if it had actually scaled, we would be in a totally different world, and it would have way more adoption, way more usage, way more. The price would be gigantically higher than BTC ever got.
I mean, taking for example something like Steam.
Yeah.
Steam would have never delisted Bitcoin because fees got so high.
They might have, because governments and stuff might have stepped in and banned it and stuff like that. But like that, all of that could have been, I think, would have been temporary.
That would have
over
been
time.
Different issues. That would have been expected crypto issues.
Yeah, that would have been. Bitcoin is now rivaling fiats in adoption, and we're freaked out, speaking as a government, and we're going to start like actively doing everything we can to fight it.
Yeah.
And it's never been anywhere near that currently. So yeah, I would say that Bitcoin currently, it's definitely a failure of what it could have been, and it's on the road to fail, but BCH still has that chance, I think. I think it's the one fork of Bitcoin that is the closest to achieving that. Yeah.
My biggest thing is like I think about like in our world and society, if there's going to be a world currency. Now BCH could be one that's like worldwide, you can go anywhere and use because cryptocurrency easy to swap through, blah blah blah. Most like we're not really in a world right now in the current crypto world where governments are going to go away.
No.
So they're all going to develop their own cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I think the CBDCs, the cryptocurrencies for the governments and banks is going to be the biggest obstacle much sooner than people think.
Yeah. So they develop that. Day-to-day users will use that.
Yes.
So then it's the getting users into our cryptos, which comes down to use case. Well, BCH being accepted in many places so that if you go on a cruise or a trip or you're traveling for whatever reason, your conferences, you're booking things. I used it to buy a game thing, Path of Exile. I used BCH and Selene Wallet and went easy and perfect and simple. So using BCH for that. Easy use cases. Great. That's a reason for people to use it instead of normal currency. Because it was way easier than using my credit card.
Yeah.
But other than that, why else are people going to come to it? And so with cash tokens now on BCH, for example, things will be developed for it to come and reasons for people to come. BTC doesn't have that.
No. It has a very rudimentary version of that with their ordinals mistake. But yeah, true smart contract capabilities. They're very slow at adopting changes. The people that are in charge don't seem to want to make changes, and honestly, they seem malicious. And it seems like they want Bitcoin to die, because if you wanted it to die, a lot of the actions that they took are the right ones to take. So,
and going to different forks of Bitcoin, BSV,
yeah, and eCash,
their other version,
and Nexa.
They just did the Twitter space.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know about Cashtokens and being on chain.
And as you'd expect somebody that close in the crypto, like they're devs, they're in crypto, and they're
it's the same technology.
Yeah, it's the same technology. It's kind of a problem. There's too much stuff going on. But if there was anybody that you'd expect to know, it'd be people like that. They're trying to push their chain. They're a fork of Bitcoin Cash. They're like cousins, whatever you want to call it. But even they don't know about stuff that's going on. So, and the same will be for Bitcoin Cash. There's other things that are doing that we don't know about. But that was kind of the thing with Bitcoin from the very beginning, is everybody was talking about, and this is like before Litecoin existed and stuff, or especially during that time, is won't copycats come out or things that are better? Like, why is Bitcoin going to be the one that survives when maybe some new killer feature comes out on a new blockchain and totally obsoletes Bitcoin? And you could say like Ethereum is kind of was that a little bit as an example. And the argument or the answer to that argument was just like, well, it's code. We can just update the code and basically steal whatever that feature is and add it to Bitcoin. It's meant to be upgraded. And that's why Bitcoin's going to always be around is we'll just take all the good features and put in Bitcoin. And so whatever good stuff gets developed, the coins you have in this network are always going to have the good stuff. And that's why it'll be number one. So you get this gigantic network effect that builds up that just keeps growing even based off other people's features. So BTC doesn't have that because they're not doing that. And Cashtokens is a perfect example of trying to integrate that into Bitcoin. That contract capability, which was always there. It always could have been enabled and added on, and it never was. So it's like you were saying, it definitely shows that people just being cash, a better cash that can be more sovereign, doesn't matter to most people.
Yeah.
They're not aware, and those that are don't really care. And right now it's kind of confusing and takes effort to get into. But as soon as you start introducing utility and use cases like gaming and stuff like that, it starts drawing people. That's like the whole reason ETH became such a gigantic thing. It's got a ton of utility.
Well, I mean, even if you talk about crypto just as money, and we start looking at finances, if BCH can now be, you can use it as cash, but you can also use it as an investment like BCH Bull. You want to keep your money stable. You want to throw money in and BCH goes up and down, whatever. Okay, you just hedge it in any hedge. You want to keep your $100 at $100. Great, you can do that. Awesome. Now there's two protocols you can use. You can use cash and you can use stable. And then somebody else could develop a investment fund onto it. Now you have 3 investment protocols in one cash world. Use cases don't necessarily need to be. You always go games because you like games.
Yeah. It's just the utility.
It is, yeah. But there can be more than just games.
Well, that's kind of what why Ethereum is the example, is because there's so much stuff going on. So it's like, I went to ETH Toronto. You go there. There's not really any Ethereum stuff there. And it's an ETH conference. And most of the stuff is stuff that's built on top of or beside ETH, or it's EVM. So it's like you got these audio applications, it's got this playlist stuff for blockchain and stuff, but it's not really there's blockchain integration, but it's more of this audio stuff that's happening. And you have this gaming stuff, and you have AI things, and you have it just keeps going and going of all these random projects.
Yeah.
And that's what Bitcoin needed. It needs to be money and stuff like that, but it needs use case. It needs use case. It needs utility. And that's what should have been tacked on.
People don't really care about the money side of things.
There's that core group of people,
that
the
do,
super libertarian style, but yeah, most people don't care.
And there are the core group of people that are in poorer countries that need a safe money, that care.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's not because they care morally, philosophically. It's just they need something now that they can rely on.
Yeah. Because their governments suck. They need something safe for them. And realistically, cryptocurrencies that go up and down are not necessarily that either, because cryptos are very unstable. Volatile, is that the word? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, this all goes down to the basic Bitcoin design. Because it's like, so the one thing that bugs me about some of the Bitcoin Cash maxis is the few that say BCH is cash. It doesn't need a high price because it's supposed to be cash. So this is also BTC maxis that say this, which is probably maliciously. So yeah, the price doesn't matter for BCH. That's a total lie. It absolutely matters. That's the whole point of the Bitcoin protocol, like the way it economically was designed, is it's basically a Ponzi.
Yep.
Like you get people, and we did a lot of episodes about this in the past, old ones, and it's incentivizing people to get into it, and the people that get in early are going to get rewarded, and therefore they just naturally want other people to get into it. It's basically how BTC maxis are thriving right now.
Yep.
Which is going downhill, it seems like, but They're basically word of mouthing it to try and get more people in, not caring about the fundamentals. They
Because
don't
it's
know.
that core Ponzi.
It's the core Ponzi. If you get in, I get more value. And that's also what BCH has. Like, it's the same coin
The fundamentals
design.
don't
Like,
change.
the fundamentals don't change. So,
But that is all crypto. That is all money.
yeah.
If no one else wants your money has no value.
And that's part of the reason everything's so tribal, is everybody's, oh, well, what about X? Oh, well, what about Y? And in Bitcoin's case, it's got basically that time bomb in it, where it's going to die by design if people don't get into it. So
I am Bitcoin, I'm not nervous. I'm the tech that changes what society is. I am money, I create freedom, and I'm limited, so I know what my worth is. I don't ask how high the fee is. Got an open, verifiable blockchain. Hashes and transactions, I find and I process. I verify what I'm handed, I trust what's commanded. But under the surface, I feel berserk like a keyboard warrior that's suddenly wordless. Under the surface, was Satoshi ever like, yo, I don't wanna fight big banks. Under the surface, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. A bug or a hack, a line in the stack that breaks the camel's back. What breaks the camel's back? It's growth of the fees that'll never stop. Whoa, users that'll leave till we just go bump. Whoa, give it to BCH, their blocks got bigger, and all we got was the stamp ticker. Who am I if I can't scale with the bull? If I fall to payments that are slow, and they just won't go. Whoa, fees that'll grow till it's ready to blow. Whoa, give it to Satoshi, blockchain is stronger. See the users throw away the dollar. Who am I if I can't verify it at all? If I falter under the surface, I had my nerves and it worsens. I worry a central chain will hurt us. Under the surface, the miners will leave. They need fees, lighting will kill this. Under the surface, I think about the white paper. Can we somehow preserve it? Line up Maxis, yo, electronic gold blows. Who can try to stop it tumbling, but on and on it goes. But wait, if I could scale to support the whole world's transactions, would that free some room up for more developmentation or simple uses? Instead we measure this growing blockchain. Keeps growing, keep going, 'cause all we see is rising of the fees that'll never stop. Whoa, users that'll leave till we just go pop. Whoa, BCH is big, the original purpose. Why it can sustain all the miners' income. Watch as Satoshi's design bends but never breaks. No mistakes, just fees that are low and sustainable.